Welcome back to Changing the Wind. Now, let me tell you a story. There was a time in my life where I had this dream, this vision that I wanted to go to Italy. And I'm going to tell you how I managed to make that happen. And in doing this, I'm going to show you how and why you probably don't have what you want already. And I'm assuming you're taking this course because you're not 100% satisfied with the way your life is, or there's something you want to achieve. And we're going to look at why you haven't already done that. So I mentioned I had this dream once that I was going to go live in Italy. And at the time, I didn't speak Italian. I didn't really know much about Italy. I just got this thought in my head. And as soon as that happened, I started having all these coincidences I started experiencing. Like I went to a yard sale one day, and the first item I saw was this beautiful map of Italy that was inside a picture frame that I bought for like $1.50 or something. And then, I was walking around and I would just hear people talking, speaking Italian even, or talking about Italy just at seemingly random places. One time I bumped into this guy at the farmer's market and he started yelling at me in Italian. And then, we ended up like talking and he actually gave me a lot of good information and advice that I used later. So you have these coincidences and they're really not coincidences. Here's what's going on. There's this part of the human brain called the reticular activating system, or the RAS for short. And what the reticular activating system does is it basically focuses on the things that you've been giving it the message that it needs to focus upon. You've probably heard the story of like the red shirts, where if you're in like a stadium with a bunch of people and you close your eyes and someone says, now quickly, with your eyes shut, tell me how many people are wearing red shirts. You're going to be like, huh? I don't know. But then when you open your eyes, you'll just see red shirts everywhere. Or like if you buy yourself a Prius, you're going to be driving around seeing Priuses everywhere because you've been thinking about it. So if you don't already have what you want, it might be that your reticular activating system isn't focusing on the right things. And this isn't your fault, okay? Most of the time, you're under attack. I mean, when you think about it, in the media, that's always like breaking news, and there's like something that's designed to make you feel really excited or really scared or even maybe upset. And that distracts your attention from the stuff that actually is relevant to your life right now, right here and now. It keeps you from thinking about the stuff that you really want, that you should be training your reticular activating system to focus upon. You probably have a stressful life. You might have a job or a situation where there are constantly other people asking you to do things for them, to fix things for them, asking you questions, and you don't even get the time and the peace to concentrate on what's important to you because there's so much going on around you. We live in a world that's filled with distractions. And now another thing that might be keeping you from what you want is that you're giving your reticular activating system the wrong instructions. If you're constantly thinking about debt or worrying about the future or feeling lonely, then you're telling your reticular activating system that these things are important, and it's going to find more reasons for you to worry about debt and worry about the future, feel lonely, and it actually works against you. And I'll give you the biggest problem, the most classical example of this that you might be doing right now. If you're thinking to yourself, if you're asking yourself all the time, why can't I get a better job? Why can't I make more money? Why can't I have more time to do what I want? Why can't I find that person that I love? Or like, why can't I find my soulmate? You're asking yourself these kinds of questions. Guess what? Your reticular activating system is going to come up with answers to those questions. You're going to be coming up in your mind, you're going to be thinking of all these reasons why it's impossible to get out of debt, why it's impossible to make more money, why it's impossible for you to be healthy and physically fit, why you're unattractive and undesirable to that person that might be your mate, or why all the people around you that you meet are just total losers who couldn't be that soulmate. So when you're focusing on the things you don't want, you're just going to get more of the things you don't want, and you're just going to reinforce all of that. So we need to retrain the reticular activating system, and this is why making a wish is so important. You need to give your RAS something positive to focus on, something that's going to make it go, look, there's all this potential, all these possibilities, all these wonderful opportunities, and you're going to start seeing them, and you're going to start having coincidences where you run into people who can help you get what you want or give you advice, or you're going to start garnering information that's useful, or you're going to start getting ideas in the shower, and this is when the reticular activating system is working for you. I want to give you a tool to start working with, and this is a really simple tool. I want you to think about the questions you're asking yourself and rephrase and re-examine them, okay? The quickest way to do this is to turn your whys into hows. So instead of asking, why can't I get in better shape? Start asking, how can I get into better shape? And you'll start thinking about ways you can make time to go to the gym or something that'll make it easier to eat healthier food more conveniently. Start asking yourself, instead of asking, why am I lonely? Ask, how can I find my soulmate? Instead of asking, why can't I make the time to paint and draw and write and build sculptures? Think about, how can I make extra time for those things? And as you do this, you're going to start getting great ideas. You're going to start coming up with the resources and plans and the things you need. So that's number one. Now, the second tool is to get yourself a journal. And now, if you don't like writing things down, you can also just draw pictures in your journal or even just symbolic things. But you could also even just turn on like a recorder or turn on your phone and just hit record. But you want to start getting your ideas out there, out of your head and onto a tangible physical format like a piece of paper or a file, so that you can examine them and also you get them out of your head where they're distracting you. And so there are a couple ways to use this journal. First of all, just start journaling on those questions I told you to transform. So instead of asking, why can't I have what I want? Start asking, how can I have what I want? And if you do this and just brainstorm like 10 ideas a day, 9 of those ideas are crap, but one of them might be just something really brilliant, and you'll have these breakthroughs. And just get in this habit of writing your ideas down, or as I said, you can draw them if you don't want to write them. So get yourself a journal, do that. And there might even be a place in this journal to write down why questions as well. Here's how this works. As you start to do this, as you start to be aware of your thinking patterns and your mindset, you're going to catch yourself doing things that are forms of self-sabotage. You'll catch yourself thinking about like self-talk, where you're telling yourself, oh, I can't do this, or I don't know what I want, or I don't know how to do this. And as you start catching yourself in these negative thought patterns, you can start to journal about, why do I have these thought patterns? And maybe you'll find out you'll get some new insights about yourself. So just examine this stuff and it will help. But most of all, most importantly, transform your why questions into how questions so that you begin to train your reticular activating system to look towards possibilities and opportunities instead of limitations. Now there's one more thing, and this is an optional thing, but I highly recommend it. There's a process called critical self-reflection, which is basically just doing everything I just talked about in the journal. But I go into it in a little more depth in this bonus lesson that I've attached. It's probably, depending on where you're watching this, you should see this on the same page or you should find a link to it. But it's a short lesson on critical self-reflection. And I think there's a Google Doc you can click on. And this is something you don't have to do. It's not really a part of this course, but I'm throwing it in because it's very useful. It's helped me in so many ways. So I recommend it if you got the time. Try going on to critical self-reflection as well. Now, as we said, you want to give the reticular activating system something positive and good to focus on. And so in the next lesson, we're going to go right into a deep dive into finding your wish, figuring out what you really, really want. And there's some techniques for uncovering that and going deeper into, like, what's the wish behind the wish? We want to give your reticular activating system a clear target so that it can start finding the things that you need in order to make your adventure happen and to basically kickstart this whole experience and this whole quest so that you can get what you want and have an adventure. So remember that you can learn, achieve, and do anything you want. And the first step is to make a wish, and we're going to cover that in the next lesson. I'll see you there.